What is JavaScript? What is, why would we need JavaScript? Let me go back to this window. Before JavaScript, the web was like this, what you're looking at right now. The web is static. It doesn't change. If the day changes, this won't change. If the week changes, that nothing will change on this thing. It's a static website. If we want things to change, we have to use JavaScript. So this is how I would teach JavaScript. What I just did was I found one of the elements on the page. I clicked inspect. You could do this in any browser. It doesn't have to be Firefox, although Firefox is great for development. It could be Chrome, it could be Safari, it could be Edge, it doesn't matter. You're going to get this window. You want to click on the one that says console. Essentially, that is JavaScript. When you have this open, you are talking to JavaScript. So if we wanted to maybe change this from what is it? It's blue. Maybe want to change it from blue to pink. How could we do that? How could we get this box and then turn it into something that is, you know, from blue to pink? If we were to give it an ID, we can just right click this, do edit as HTML. We can give it an ID. IDs are not really modern web development, but IDs are still useful, especially in this situation. So I'm going to show you how. Let's just call this box 1. So I've changed the actual document object model. I've changed the HTML on my client. This didn't change it on the server. This just changed it here. It didn't go anywhere else. I'm going to go to the next box and I'm going to edit as HTML and I'm going to add my next tag, which is an ID. And this one I'm going to call box 2. Now that I've given these two things names, it's simple for me to access them using vanilla JavaScript. So I can come back and remember I said document object model. The document is a thing in JavaScript. It represents the HTML document that you're looking at. So what we want to do is we want to go to that document and we want to do something called get element by ID. We called it box 1. So if we do that, you can see that we get back the actual box. Here's our div, box ID 1. Here's the classes. That's the box right here. So what you can do now is you can change things. You can say, I want to change the styles. I want to change the class list. If you want to change the class list, you would have to do something like, well, you could pop it off. I guess you could find it. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do it with the least amount of JavaScript, basically, or maybe the most readable amount of JavaScript. I could do remove, but I think I can do a replace. If I do a replace, it's going to replace all of it. Okay, I'll just do a remove. So if I do the remove and I say I want to remove the blue 500 class, and then I want to go back to it and I want to add the BG pink 500 class, it turns pink. So we've modified the DOM from the client. It doesn't change anybody else. Nobody else will see this. If somebody else goes to the website, it's still going to be blue, but for us, it's pink now. So what if you wanted to write a function where you wouldn't have to tell it what to take out? You would just tell it what the new color was. You'd probably first want to specify what colors are available. Because of the way that I've deployed this, it only has the styles that I'm using. So I can't just pull any CSS color I want out. It has to be one that was already in use. Otherwise, it's not in my style sheet. There's reasons that I did that. It's not really for this video, but it makes the web page essentially download faster. So we know we have we have blue, we have pink, we have green, we have yellow, we have purple. Those are the colors that we have. Blue, pink, green, yellow, purple. Don't worry about where they come from so much is the fact that we have these classes. Because we're doing JavaScript here. We're not worried about the CSS too much. So now that we have these colors, we should be able to essentially look through this string here. Where is it at? This string. Well, technically it's an array. We can look through this array and we can find anything that looks like our thing, which doesn't show here. That's interesting. So the class list updated, but we have a ... which just means that there's more stuff here. It's probably at the end because it was the last thing we added, and sure enough, here it is at the end. Okay. So what we need to do somehow is we have to go through this thing. It's not actually an array. Let's do array.from. So if we do an array.from and we pass in a DOM token list, an HTML collection, or any number of these strange types that only exist when you're talking about the HTML DOM, you get back like an actual array. What if we set that to a variable called class list? Okay, so we have a variable called class list now. That class list has all of the classes that are available from that DOM element. Okay, so currently we've got this. Isn't there a way that we could look through and we could find the one that is the color we're trying to swap out? We don't really know what color it is. We just know it's going to be one of those colors. The way that I would do this is with a function called filter. Now, filter is going to take one list and just allow us to go through each item in the list and then decide if we want to keep the item or if we want to throw it away. There's find or find index. I would probably do find index in this case. So if you have an array of things, the item that you're on can be called your index. So it starts at 0. You go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. So if we were trying to find the H12, for instance, that's 0, 1, 2, we would get back that. So let's try to find the H12 just so we can find it. So class list is going to give us a bunch of CSS classes. We can't use the word class because class is built into JavaScript. It's a keyword. So CSS class, each one of these, we're going to be looking to see if that CSS class is equal to the one that we want. And then we get back the index. And like I said, it was a 2. Now, why do we do 3 equals? Why not do 1 equal? Well, as you've seen, if I have a variable and I want to make it equal to something, I use the variable and then a single equal and then a value. This is known as assignment. So single equal equals assignment. What about double equal? You should never use double equal in JavaScript. Never, 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 never. Maybe in TypeScript this is different. In JavaScript, double equal means that JavaScript is going to do a bunch of magic, and it's likely going to get the magic wrong. It's much better if you do a triple equal. It's going to force your code to be more exact, and therefore it'll be more robust. It'll be much less likely to break. So always use the triple equal or the 3 equal or the rope operator. Okay, so if we find the index, couldn't we just get the index? We could save the index. Let's get the actual one that we want, right? It's BG Pink 500 right now, I think. So our index is 15 right now. That means that it was found. What happens if we just do find and we don't do index? Okay, so we get back the actual one that we were looking for. What happens if we try to find something that's not there? Okay, we get back undefined. Okay, so if it can't find it, we get undefined. If it can find it, we get the item. And if we use find index, we can get the index. Okay, well, how is any of this useful? Well, I want to change this from whatever it is, I don't care what it is, to purple. Okay, so I have the index of the thing that it is now, but that's sort of cheating because we're hard coding this, right? Well, don't we have a list of colors? Well, we do, but if you remember, they're like blue, yellow, purple. It doesn't say BG and it doesn't say 500. Okay, so what can we do? Well, there's this special type of string. It's called a string template operator. It's a backtick. It's a quote that's angled, but instead of being angled forward, it's angled backward. You'll find it on your computer. It's very useful in JavaScript. It lets us put variables directly inside of a string. So I know it's going to be BG dash something dash 500. That part doesn't change. The part that changes is the part that's in the middle here. And we can put a variable in with $sign and then curly braces, open, close curly braces. What would go in there? Well, we need a color, but we don't have a color yet. Okay. Where are the colors? Well, the colors are in this colors array. So could we maybe find the color just like we were doing before where we found the thing? I guess you could. But there's another thing. It's called, if we did colors.map, we would end up with a new color for every color that we used to have. That's not really what we want. Filter obviously allows us to filter colors in, filter colors out. That's kind of what we want, but not really. What we want is we want to be able to somehow go over this thing and match. So here's how I think I would do. I would have to have a way of getting something like BG-pink-500 and to extract the color out of it. If I can extract the color out of it, I could compare it to something else, right? Let's start there. So I've got the CSS class list. Each one, I'm going to get a single CSS class. It's going to look something like BG Pink 500. But I don't have BG Pink 500. I only have pink because pink is in my colors list. Okay, so I need to be able to extract this pink out. How could I do that? Well, we can have a conversation with JavaScript. What if I said, I have a string called BG Pink 500 and I want to do a split on it and I want to split it at the hyphen? Well, then I would be able to get the pink out if I went to the first index of that array that's returned. So watch what happens here. If I hit this, if I call split and I give it a hyphen, it will split my string into an array and it will split it where the hyphen is. And the hyphen will be essentially replaced by a comma and I'll have a real array. It's like Pinocchio, but a real boy. I can then take that and get to the first index. Okay, so how is that useful for what we were trying to do? Well, what we were trying to do was somehow find if this thing exists. So let's switch that to a find. If this returns anything other than a false, it will be true, and we'll get the thing back. Okay, so we know we want this somehow, because this is how we're going to extract the thing. Oh, and this would be CSS class now. And each of these classes, it would go over and it would check to see if that's the thing. Okay. But that's going to return like, you know, pink or whatever. The class list is actually something that's going to be bg dash some color dash 500, because that's the hue. Okay. So we're going to have this. This doesn't return that. This returns just the color. Okay. But couldn't we do that operator thing I was talking about and do something like bg dash? Well, you wouldn't even have to do that. You could do just CSS class here for now. So if the CSS class matches this, the whole thing will match and it will return. But where does color come from? That's where we're going to have to iterate over our colors. So we've got this colors array. We're going to iterate over the colors. There's a whole bunch of different functions that do iteration in JavaScript. You've got map, you've got filter, you've got reduce, you've got sum, you've got every. The one that we need right now is just something that will return if we can find it. We already have one like that. So that gives us a color. What does this give us back? Whoa, it gives us back pink 500. Why does it give us back pink 500? Because this one will match the pink. Here, let's test this. Where's our class list? Let's go back to where we set our class list. I'm just pressing up until I get to the class list. So the class list is here. What happens if we changed it to 3? It's a null because we never set that. So let's inspect this. Let's add our HTML property ID equals, and this is going to become box 3. Let's go back to our console. Let's try that again. And now we have a class list. Okay. So what happens if we run the same code that we did before? Now we get BG green 500. So it's clearly matching the color that we're looking for. Okay. This is why vanilla JavaScript is so important. It's important that you're able to do this stuff. It's important in job interviews that you can explain how stuff works. I don't expect you to understand everything that I just did there. I'm just showing you what good functional vanilla JavaScript looks like so that when you see it, you can identify it and go, that's a good Stack Overflow answer. That's a good piece of code. That's something I want to copy. That's something I want to emulate. You can emulate things before you really truly understand them. Many times you'll learn a new software practice or pattern. You'll emulate it long before you actually understand it. And it's through the process of emulation where you'll eventually realize that either you do or you don't understand certain parts and you'll make adjustments. So we know that this will always find the thing, the class that we're essentially trying to replace, right? Okay. So wasn't there a document.get element by ID? We pass it in our box 3. That gives us back our box 3. We had something called replace, right? Replace takes a class you want to replace, and it takes the class you want to replace it with. What if we wanted to change it to BG color, BG purple? By the way, what you're looking at there is an example of Tailwind CSS. It would take a lot more to do it in CSS than it does in Tailwind. And when I hit the button, we get nothing. Wait, I didn't. It didn't actually do enter. That's interesting. Why is it not? Oh, I probably forgot a paren. Let's add an extra paren. Replace, class list. Class list replace. two arguments. Oh, wait. I'm in the wrong place. This is supposed to be here. And so now you can see that it changes color. If I wanted to change it to blue, I could change it to blue. Although the color is not going to update, because remember, this class list didn't update. So that's where we get into a place where we say, well, we need to save like a variable to the element. So we're finally doing a assignment here. The element is going to be this box 3 thing. Now we know whenever we call that element, we're getting like the current element, even if it's been updated. We'll get the current version of it. Then you have to write a function, something like change box color. It's going to take a box ID and it's going to take a color. What does this function do? We need to return something. In most functions, for them to actually be called a function, we're not going to worry about that here. It's not that I don't think that's true. It's not that I don't think those are the best kinds of functions, but they're not. It's not a useful discussion at this stage. So what we want to do is we want to get that element by ID. So every time we call this, we're guaranteed to get a fresh copy of that element, or not a fresh copy, but a fresh pointer to it. So if it's changed, we get the change, and then whatever we do to it will be able to be gotten later. We want a class list. So let's do our el.classList, but we want it to be array.from. So now we have an element. We can get the class list from that element. That's actually an array. That's what allows us to be able to do this sort of a thing. So we have to be able to get the CSS class. We have to be able to get the colors and the thing that we're going to replace it with. So then we could call el.classList.replace. We could feed this in. It would not replace it if it doesn't find it, I think. I think probably we should probably do something like, oops. If the, let's do the find first. We'll do the find separately. Let's call this class to replace. Okay, so where does the color come from? You got a color here. You got a color here. You got some CSS class here. This is where we're looping over the classes, and we're finding one, right? This is it when you're looking over all of them. This is the one that we want to replace it with. Let's call that replace with color, and it's just a little bit clearer. I kind of like things that are clear. So if this class replace doesn't exist, remember that this will return undefined if it doesn't find it. We just want to return. There's no work to do. Otherwise, we need to do the replace. So we're going to replace that one with, we'll do another string template. bg-our color, right? Which needs to be inside of a $sign and brackets, curly brackets, so that it's essentially a variable that will become a string in line. All right, missing after. So I am missing one of these again, maybe. And sometimes the easiest way to do this is to put it in a actual JavaScript file. I'll just call this index.js, paste our code in. This will show you things that you might miss if you're trying to type it in the browser. All right, so let's see, we have, and this is just VS Code. We'll set this up another day where we go into like the full detail of setup. Let's see, we've got a paren here, paren here, paren here, paren here. There's one here, here. Actually, they look like they're matching up, although we never put our ID in. That actually says that it should be good. Okay, it is. So let's find out. Change box color, box 1. We want box 1 to be blue. Hey, cool. Check that out. I didn't write this code ahead of time. I wrote it right now. What if we wanted the next one to be yellow? Hey, that one didn't work. Forgot the yellow. Now we're screwed because we're looking for it to match something. It's not going to match that. Let's refresh the page. Let's put our function back in. Let's just try to call that. Oh, we got to put the function back in. We also are going to have to give these IDs, right? So let's add the ID again. Edit as HTML. ID B1. Go to the second one, inspect, edit as HTML, ID B2. Same thing. Edit as HTML, ID 3. Edit as HTML, ID 4. And finally, ID 5. Now remember, we're just changing the HTML in our browser. This does not affect anybody else. This is just our own silly little world that we're creating. All right, so let's change the box 2 to yellow. EL is not a thing. Which one did I try to replace? Oh, we changed the names of these, right? So B2, colors is not defined. Let's define our colors. Let's go back up to where the colors were defined. Right here. Okay, so now our colors are defined. Changes to yellow, changes to pink, changes to purple. What if we wanted to do box 1? Box 1 is now purple. Box 1 is now green. What if we wanted to change box 4 to green? Looks like there is no B4. Why is there no B4? It says there's no B3 either. So there's a B2. It died for B4. Ah, it just says 3 and 4. Okay, I totally screwed that up. I'm not sure how I did that. B3. B4. Welcome to web development. It's one little tiny thing is a big thing. Code doesn't work unless you tell it the right thing. All right, so B1, B4. What about B2? Do I have a B2? Do I have a B5? Bingo! That's vanilla JavaScript. Let's grab our colors out of here, because if we don't, we won't have them. And let's just put our colors into here for now. So there's your first JavaScript. I wouldn't say that this is like you should be able to write this JavaScript on day one. I wouldn't even say you should be able to understand this on day one. I'm just showing you what JavaScript can do. I'm showing you why it's useful. I'm showing you why it has to be the key thing in your toolbox as a modern web developer. It's what makes things modern. If you don't have the vanilla JavaScript skills, you have a very static page, or maybe you know a framework like React or something, that's all fine and dandy, but you're going to find instances where like you need to serve JavaScript at another location, creating embeds and plugins and advertisements and inserts and all kinds of other stuff. And also you're going to find tons and tons and tons of legacy JavaScript that was written in jQuery and was written in vanilla JavaScript. And you're going to have to be able to interface with that stuff. Even if you're a React developer, you're going to have to understand JavaScript well enough to take stuff that was written for JavaScript and then convert it into something that was for React by changing the mindset. So, yeah, that's vanilla JavaScript for beginners. I'm going to go real quick over the schedule just to let you guys know what's coming up, and then we'll go to Q&A. So yeah, this was 10 a.m. vanilla JavaScript for beginners. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the same thing at the same time, but it's not the exact same thing. Tomorrow I'm going to be showing you some other stuff about vanilla JavaScript that makes it useful in a modern context of like, why would we need it at all? And why do I need to learn it? Not before, not instead of, but why do I need to learn JavaScript along with TypeScript? Or why do I need to learn JavaScript along with Vue or Svelte or React or whatever you end up using? You can't write sonnets unless you speak English. Well, you can write sonnets in your language. You can't write a sonnet in a language that you don't speak. Okay. Coming up, 11 a.m. This one's a little bit more advanced in the sense that it's writing clean code using Solid. Solid principles come from pretty big thinkers back in the day on these patterns that when used, the code just gets clean. It's hard to explain. These solid principles will help whether you write JavaScript, whether you write functional, whether you write object-oriented, you write, I'm sure even things like Rust, but definitely the higher level languages. That's going to be at 11 a.m. Then we're going to be doing 12 p.m. designing UX with Tailwind. You already saw some Tailwind right here with this, and we're going to be seeing a lot more because that's just going to be HTML and Tailwind. We're not going to do any JavaScript, at least today. We're going to take a break, come back at 7. We're going to do databases and CRUD, SQL, and Mongo. This is going to be, a couple of weeks long course every day, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. And by the end of it, you will know SQL. You will be able to do left join. You'll be able to do right join. You will understand what schemas are. You'll be able to use something like Postgres and not freak out. And you're going to get to know MongoDB very well. You're going to know how to do queries. You're going to learn how to do aggregations. You're going to do lookups. You're going to do all the things that you used to do with SQL that are now just differently named, basically. And then we get to have a lot of fun, APM, Web3, and crypto. I'll try to help you not lose your hat in crypto. And I'll tell you what I've done to make money in crypto. And also talk about some web projects, Web3 projects that I've worked on or that I've made, and how it went, both the code and like the financials, because everything in Web3 is tied to money. So it's never just code. It's always code and money. How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for spending your time with me. It means the world. It really does. No sonnet without prose. Exactly. Hey, real quick, I want to say thank you to Richard Soriano, Joshua V. Stories, I Don't Know You, Julie Aquina, and Ryan Bent. These are people who have zapped that tip jar with their phone. That QR code will take you directly to our tip jar. This is a pay-as-you-can operation. I want to give everybody in the world who can speak English a free web development education, taught by an expert, not taught by a clown, not taught by an influencer, not taught by somebody who you could never, like, they hire people for boot camps, and these people can't make any money in the industry. The boot camp would not be able to pay me $120 an hour to teach you, which is what my rate is. So if you can find a boot camp that pays their instructors $120 an hour, I would say that's probably a decent boot camp, although I still think they're overpriced. So my goal here, you should be able to do a modern web dev education from an expert that charges $120 an hour when I'm charging people, and I don't charge you guys anything because you zap that tip jar, you subscribe to YouTube, you follow us on Twitch. We're now up to 35 on Twitch, and I haven't checked on YouTube. So we can only be here because of you. Thank you so much, producers. If you want your name on that list, you know what to do. You can just zap it, give us $1, give us $4, give us $100. Your support keeps the show open. And let's see what's going on here. Anything? Joshua B. Stories over on Twitch is saying fantastic. Anybody else on Twitch, this is your chance to ask questions, to make statements, to let us know what's going on your mind. And over on YouTube, we've got KM. What's up? How you doing, KM? We've got our good buddy Chris chiming in with .ad, which is, you know, you can remove an ad. Dante, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Yeah, well, back to basics in the sense that I want this to be accessible to everybody, and I'm saving all of these videos. So after we finish the stream for this hour, this video at the end of the day, when I'm able to breathe again, will be on the channel as permanent content, 1 hour, and we will be doing timestamps. If you want timestamps in those videos, all you got to do is put the markers in the comments and we'll collect them up and put them into the timestamps of the video. So, hey, Northern Chimp, how you doing? I'm loving having all of my friends here. You can watch us on Twitter, on Twitch. You can watch us on YouTube. Works, whatever works for you. Eventually, I will figure out Twitch and we'll do all the fun stuff with the drops and the rewards and all of that stuff. I'm not cool enough yet. I don't know how Twitch works. But if you are a Twitcher and you want to be like in the Vampire Chronicles where an old vampire makes a new vampire so that the new vampire can lead them into a new age without going into the fire, well, you could help me Twitch so that I don't look quite so boomerish, because I'm not a boomer. And so I don't go into the fire, because that would be terrible. So yeah, we got our buddies. We got our generals on, which is good. Generals are good to have. Make sure you find some generals in your own army. Make sure you find some support. For those of you who need some support, I'm here for you. Anything I can do to help you, just ask. If I can do it, I will. I'll help you with job prep, job interview, all that stuff. Ed Blue over on Twitch. Hi, Mark. Thanks for being an inspiration. You're welcome. Honestly, it's the only reason why I'm still breathing. I shouldn't be breathing, and I am, and that's why. I wanted to ask if no one should focus learning ES6 plus syntax edition, or the older JS stuff is important likewise. There's a bunch of shit on top of it, so I can't get it out. But JavaScript, the good parts, will not lead you astray. It's a mix of older stuff and newer stuff, but it's just a mix of good stuff. You have to remember that with JavaScript, the people that are involved in making the decisions on what goes into JavaScript and what doesn't, most of them are not actually there for JavaScript. They're there to shove some agenda onto JavaScript. Okay. Aside from that, you still need to learn ES6 classes. You still need to learn some stuff that I wouldn't use in the client at all, ever. But if you ever end up doing server-side stuff and working with object-oriented developers who are not used to JavaScript, you will find yourself writing ES6 classes. So I understand that it's hard to read because it's green and I have a green screen, right? So the cover doesn't show great. But this is JavaScript Good Parts. It's by Doug Crockford. Doug Crockford is the godfather of JavaScript. Brendan Eich is the father. Doug Crockford is the godfather. Doug is he's a wonderful human. He was sort of attacked and driven away from our community, but you can't go wrong with that book. I would say you have to know older stuff in the sense that you have to know it's there and you have to know not to fuck with it. Sorry, You have to learn not to touch it unless you have to. Don't use it unless you have to. But I still think it's relevant to know which of the ES6 stuff you still have to learn, but you wouldn't necessarily want your kid doing it, kind of thing. And also what's still really important in the old stuff. It's just stuff that's fundamental. I'll cover all of that. Remember, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,